Remake Rewind.
Thank you for listening to Remake Rewind, the podcast where we decide if remakes or reboots should have happened. As always, I'm Mike.
And I'm Kat.
And, yeah, that's Kat. She is going to be guest hosting this episode. Alex is on vacation, and Double D is just taking a week off. So, Katrina's going to actually help me host this episode.
Nice substitute, I guess.
I think you're a great substitute.
Definitely hotter.
I mean, Double D's pretty hot.
Fuck you.
I haven't actually seen Alex in person, so I can't give him an actual rating. But he's got a great personality.
Okay.
So, Katrina, what are we going to be covering on this week's episode of Remake Rewind?
Well, Michael, on this week's episode, we're covering Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday, indeed. I've never seen the original one with Jodie Foster. I've only seen the Lindsay Lohan one once.
Really?
There's actually two other versions of this movie. There was one that came out in the 90s, apparently, with Shelley Long, and then there was one that came out this year that went straight to Disney Channel. The Shelley Long one went to Disney Channel as well. So there were two, like, made-for-TV versions of this movie.
Wow.
And then, of course, like, the body swap genre is a thing, but this movie kind of started it.
Is body swap a genre?
It is. You've got, like, these movies, you've got Just My Luck, another Lindsay Lohan one. There's also The Switch, or no, it's not The Switch, The Change Up.
Is that the one where their streams cross?
Yeah, with Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds. But there are a lot of movies where people swap minds and bodies and whatnot. There are a lot of TV shows have crossover episodes where that happens, and you know, I would say it is a genre of film now.
Yeah, I guess so.
I do say so. So, I just kind of think I'm ready to talk about these movies. You ready to talk about the original one?
I mean, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. Alright, I've got a summary from IMDb. It was written by Claudio Carvalho from Rio.
I like that name.
It says...
Brazilian.
Oh, it's a
Probably
sexy
hot.
name. Probably, I mean, from Brazil, yeah. Take any of
It's probably got a huge ass.
them. Wow. It says, the teenager Annabelle has friction with her mother, Mrs. Andrews, and her younger brother, Ben. One Friday morning, they each wish to be the other one at the same... What? The other one for a day at the same time, and their wishes come true, and they swap bodies. Meanwhile, Mrs. Andrews...
Meanwhile?
There's so many typos. That should say Mr. Andrews, who is PR of a company, is preparing a party to promote a real estate deal, and he counts on the support of his wife and daughter. During a little more than support. During the day, Annabelle and Mrs. Andrews learn the difficulties of each other and understand the difficulties. It's a great.
Did you say
summary.
Difficulties twice in like 3 words?
In one sentence.
Okay then. Well,
Difficulties.
you know what? Honestly,
English.
it's probably not his
is difficult.
first language, so I'm gonna give him.
I mean,
pass.
if he's from Rio, you think?
he's probably speaks Portuguese.
You think?
Anyway, let's just get into the movie. I actually really enjoyed this movie. It's fucking weird.
It's hilarious, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The last half hour or so, okay, so like a third of the movie, it kind of devolves into an episode of Benny Hill and gets really bizarre, but it's still entertaining. You're just like, you can't look away.
Benny Hill, like, cartoon, like, it makes zero sense. It's like Looney Tunes level at the end.
Yeah, it goes all out.
There's a point in the movie where they don't even just swap bodies. Like, most of these movies, like, the people's minds are each other. There's a point where their bodies actually switch.
I know.
So they, like, instantaneously transport across
it makes no sense.
the
they
greater
just
Los
went
Angeles
for
area. It makes no sense. And it has this weird opening, paper animation, South Park style opening.
I love it. It's adorable.
It is. And they're, like,
That's
singing
not
this...
weird. It's
no,
cute.
It's adorable, but it's kind of like...
It's very 70s.
It's 70s, but it's also like early to mid 2000s indie film.
That was the thing at the time. Remember Grease had one of those
Grease had
funky
an
intros?
animation, yeah.
And it's like these animated intros, they don't really fit the vibe of the film at all in anything that they're in. They're just cute.
Yeah, they're
just fun. It was the thing that you did.
Well, also this is back when credits were at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
You know, and so you would literally watch several minutes of credits. So it was during the 70s that they started doing this kind of stuff to give you something to watch while doing that, as opposed to just a blank kind of canvas. It was actually Jodie Foster and the actress who played the mother who sang that song.
Really?
Yeah, it was actually them. So that was pretty cool. It sounded all right.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really seen anything like this movie. It's so weird, and there's some just weird jokes in this movie that are borderline. I'm not gonna say they're inappropriate because they're like, it's a very PG movie.
They're unexpected,
right? But there's a scene where because the daughter is in the mom's body, she calls the father daddy, and he gets this really creepy smile on his face. He's like, "You've never called me that before."
He gets a big grin. He's like, "You never called me daddy before."
And he's super chauvinistic.
I know.
That dad is sexist AF. Like, there's a point when he's getting ready to go to work and take the younger brother to school, and he's giving the mom a list of stuff to do, or who he thinks is his wife.
Yeah.
A list of something like, I need you to do this, I need you to pick up my dry cleaning, I need you to buff my shoes, I need you to go find this shirt, I need you to iron the shirt, don't burn it, don't burn the fluffs. And he goes, I'm going to go do my job, and you stay and do your job. And maybe you wear that slinky little black dress when I come back, or something along those lines.
Gross.
And he, like, does eyebrow kind of, like, lifts and stuff like that, like, just super pervy.
He also, like, specifically asks her to go out and get booze, which I thought was pretty funny, because you'd never see that in a modern Disney movie unless they were making a commentary about that person's alcoholism. Right. Whereas, like, back in the day, everyone was an alcoholic.
Yeah, everybody.
Everyone would go get drunk with the neighbors and then drive home.
They all had, like, their little bars in their living room and in their offices.
It's a cart.
It's a cart. Yeah, but they called it the bar. The other thing that's, we'll obviously talk about the differences when we move into the second one, but this family seemed, honestly, like a pretty healthy, standard family.
Right, pretty average.
She really loved her younger brother. Oh, no, she didn't love her younger brother. The younger brother really loved her.
Yeah.
And she was just kind
of a turd to him.
I would say she was more, like, indifferent. Like, she wasn't actively mean to him.
Typical oldest
typically
sibling.
Older sibling, especially one that's probably a good 6-7 years apart. She's supposed to be, like, 13, 14, and he's supposed to be, like, 6.
Oh, he's kind of like a 9-year-old, I think.
I think he's supposed to be younger, though.
Oh, okay.
What's weird is, like, she says he's gorgeous. Like, it opens up with, like, this narration. It's like, I'm Annabelle, and I'm just a girl, and life is whatever, and my mom doesn't understand me. And that's my brother. He's gorgeous.
She goes through a summary of how perfect he is, and as he's, like, cleaning up his room and folding his laundry, she's, like, basically saying that he only does these things just to spite her and make her look bad. And then she sums it up with, a perfect person and a creep.
Right. Well, and the thing that's funny is this brother is super sweet. Like, he is the antithesis of the brother in the newer movie.
He's just a good kid.
He's a great kid. He wants to do right by everybody. And there's even a scene when, the thing that's great about these movies is all these body swap movies, these people get literally see life from a different person's perspective. Like, she doesn't like her brother. She thinks the brother doesn't like her, but because she's in the mom's shoes, the brother thinks she's the mom. So the brother's like complaining, like, I don't get why my sister doesn't like me. I love her. She's beautiful. I wish I could be her. I want to have braces just like her.
I've tried hating her, but I just can't.
You can't hate somebody that you love. And,
it's so cute.
And then there's even a point where he goes, there was one time that our nanny was being rude and getting mad at her for not cleaning her room, so I purposely didn't clean my room, and the nanny was like, well, you're just a little kid, so it's okay. And so I still, like, she got mad at me because I still didn't get in trouble, kind of things. Like, it's not fair. So, it's really sweet. Like, I really liked this kid.
Yeah.
I wanted to see more of this kid, even though he's kind of funny looking. He was a really sweet kid.
Yeah.
So what are some highlights for you? Like, the highlight to me was the brother and the creepy dad. What were some highlights of this movie for you?
I really liked the way it was written and edited, especially the beginning of the film. Like, it starts off and it's instantly interesting, which doesn't often happen with these movies. A lot of times they kind of drag at the beginning, they try and find their feet and fail for a little while. But, like, right out the gate, it starts out with really funny narration.
The dialogue's really good.
Yeah, so the daughter is kind of narrating the beginning portion of the film. She's just giving a summary of their life and introducing all of the characters. And then they start doing this thing where the mom and the daughter are both talking to other people about each other. And so when they go to quote one another, that's kind of what they use to switch scenes. So the daughter will start saying the quote of the mother, and then it cuts to the mother saying that exact same thing.
Right.
While she's, doing the dishes in the morning and getting her husband ready for work and all that kind of stuff. I really like how they did that. It was really clever. And I think it was something that not a lot of films were doing yet at the time.
And it was also what I thought was interesting was a lot of times, and this is kind of more prevalent in the 2013 version with Lindsay Lohan, but a lot of these movies where there's a mom and a daughter kind of at odds, a lot of times the mom's always trying to get the daughter to be more pretty or something like that. Like,
right.
And this, it's almost the opposite, where like Jodie Foster's character, Annabelle, is actively on a diet. Like, she's trying to lose weight for whatever reason, and and the moms keep saying, like, no, like,
I'm gonna grow up to be a blimp.
Right, like, you should eat more stuff and everything. So it's funny that, like, it's actually completely opposite of how most moms treat daughters in movies.
Right.
And what's interesting is, I mean, obviously Jodie Foster is not, your gender normal kind of woman. Like, she's a woman, obviously.
She was pretty butch in this movie.
But she's also,
like, you see her, you're like, that's a little lesbian.
I agree. Like, she's a tomboy. She has the short hair, but she also has, like, her nails painted, and she's also very concerned about her figure and everything like that. So it's interesting because she's not just, she kind of has both gender norms in this movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty progressive, I would say.
Well, I mean, like, I think that's a pretty typical tween girl.
Right.
Where they're still into, like, playing outside and running around barefoot, and at the same time, like, you kind of feel this push, like, you want to start growing up. You want to start doing teenage things. Yeah, and she has a crush on the boy. And it's a really awkward time to go through because, like, I don't know how much boys go through this, but as a girl, when you're in that age, like, your childhood and your teens are very much at odds with each other.
Right.
It's a really super awkward time. And socially, there are all these demands to be specific things in each of those portions of your life. And it's a really sharp contrast.
For boys, it's not as stark of a difference because, going through middle school, like, basically when she got into middle school, like, you obviously were homeschooled, so you didn't really get to experience this too much, but
right.
In middle school, basically the girls hung around tables and talked,
right,
and gossiped or whatever, where the boys, a lot of them would still bring a football or a basketball to school and play, or like when I was in 7th, 8th grade, hacky sacks were like big, so we would play, kick this, we'd sack it up.
And there might have been girls who like would do that still, but then
it was few and far between.
Right, and girls they didn't always like gradually shift out of that. Like a lot of girls that I knew would take a new school year as an opportunity to completely change the way they looked.
I definitely, I'm not going to throw anybody's name out there, but like I remember there was this girl that I actually had a big crush on for like several years, from like middle school through part of high school, and she was very much like that, where she was kind of tomboyish. Like, she played basketball and stuff with the boys and would sometimes play football with the boys and everything, and it was somewhere between like 9th grade or 10th grade, just drastically different,
right? Because it's easier to come back to school being completely different
over the summer. You know, you had an experience, or you just changed, like, and obviously bodies change, and
right. And so I liked the dynamic, though, between the daughter and the mother, that she wasn't really pushing her daughter to be anything specific. The mother was kind of like live and let live in this movie.
And just wake up and go to school and be on time to things.
Right. She just wanted her to be a little more responsible about certain things. And, like, the mother was kind of, like, busy doing her own thing.
Right.
You know, she was, like, wrapped up in that, not super concerned with, you know, I guess regulating her daughter's appearance.
What I didn't understand about this movie, and I think this actually does a disservice to the mother. What's the mother's name in this? Is it Tess as well?
I don't remember.
Because in the newer movie, her name is Anna, but in this one's Annabelle. But anyway, I'll let you look up the name. But honestly,
it just says Mrs. Andrews.
Mrs. Andrews. Sad. Okay. So the thing that's weird about this movie is a lot of the times with these movies, when they want you to feel bad for the mother character, they show like how much all the ironing and the cooking and the cleaning and
She had it pretty
things going
much
wrong.
handled.
She had other people doing it. So there were people there who cleaned and vacuumed. She had a housekeeper who was doing the heavy cleaning.
Well, no, they weren't. They were shampooing the carpets and drapes.
Oh, okay.
That's like a thing that people used to do on a regular basis.
But then they had somebody else. There was another person there doing.
They had a housekeeper,
and then a housekeeper, and then there was another guy who came. So there was someone who's doing the carpets and the drapes, and there was another guy doing some other thing.
It was the mechanic.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay, so they're taking care of the mechanic. But yeah, she had a bunch of people there helping her with all her housework and tasks.
Yeah, because if you were upper middle class at that time in America, you could actually afford to do
like
those
the Brady
things.
Bunch.
Yeah.
They had Alice.
Yeah, because they actually had, a livable wage and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, the mom, had it pretty well handled. She was hot, too.
She's super hot.
She was pretty skinny, though.
She was skinny, hot. But she was really pretty.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Her face looks like the spider from Charlotte's Web, though.
Yeah, I could kind of see that.
They did, she still had the over-the-top 60s lashes, kind of.
Or like the animated opening of I Dream of Jeannie or Bewitched.
Yeah.
Yeah, she looks like she looked like a cute little cartoon character.
Yeah. Adorable.
I mean, everybody in that movie kept saying how beautiful she is.
Yeah.
And she was.
I really like that when they change bodies, the daughter's stoked to have her mom's hot bod.
Yeah, she was dancing and kind of
She's I'm a woman.
Yeah.
She was excited about it.
Yeah, and that's something that I really liked about this is there was an they actually kind of enjoyed being in each other's bodies at a certain point. The mom not as much, but the daughter definitely. And then the daughter struggled being the mom a little bit in terms of the not knowing where it was really just not her not knowing where things were. When all those people came, she didn't know where the checkbook was.
Not knowing how to do the laundry.
So that was a little bit different. I think the mom struggled more, having to, take a test, a typing test, and basically blowing up that room. She had to play the field hockey. And she ends up scoring.
Hockey's scary.
And, she had to, she ended up scoring a goal on her own team.
Right. I like that contrast, though. So in this movie, Annabelle was a total jock.
Right.
She was in all the sports. She had a field hockey game, and then for the dad's big presentation, or it was like a presentation to a client, right?
Right,
They were kind of redesigning a marina, as far as I could tell. And for some reason, he had decided that his daughter and her friends, who have a water skiing team, should do a show. What was it that they called it?
I think they just
something
call it Aquapades or something.
Aquapades.
Yeah, something like
Aquapades.
that.
So yeah, he was relying on her to do that, and she also had her typing test. She had a lot going on.
She had a lot going on.
Busy kid.
And it turns out she's really smart, and she just there's a point where, because she's in her mom's body and she goes to a parent-teacher conference thing, the teacher, she's complaining about how mean her teacher is to her throughout the whole movie, leading up to the switch. And I keep saying the whole movie, there was maybe only 5-10 minutes tops in the movie before they did the switch. It went really quick.
Yeah.
But this teacher is I'm mean to her because she's so smart and I'm trying to push her to be better, and I feel like a failure because she is the smart. They say her IQ is 163 or something like that. So she's supposed to be super smart, but she's still not doing the best in school. And the teacher's I feel like a failure, and that's why I'm mean to her, kind of thing. And so it was a really genuinely good experience for Annabelle to be in her mom's body, because she got some confidence that, all these adults think she's a genius.
Yeah.
And everything. So she's I'm going to start applying myself, kind of thing. So, it was a really good experience for her. And, just to get to the the end of the movie is, they have their experiences where they learn about what it's like being the other person. By the end of the movie, basically what ends up happening is the mom has to do the jet skiing, and the daughter's body. There's a point where the dad is go, and she's I can't do it. He's you're gonna blow this deal for me, and she's I can't do it. He's okay, fine, just hold on to this thing for me for a second. Gives her the rope, and then he tells the person in the boat to go, and forces her to do this jet skiing thing. And then you said, it goes into Benny Hill. Why didn't you tell us what that meant?
It just got ridiculous. It got totally insane. There was a car chase in a Beetle. There were police cruisers following them around. Like, at one point, this police car crashes into a pole and just shears down the center and splits the squad car in half.
And the two cars are driving in different directions, too.
Yeah, it just got real weird.
How did she end up on, like, the hang glider?
I don't quite know. So this was after they switched back. So it was the mother there. Not just the mother, like...
Yeah, it's weird. So
like, sure, they switched bodies.
Originally, they switched
somehow.
minds.
Right.
At the end of the movie, they both
switch
say,
back, but then it's their bodies there.
They say it different. So I think at the beginning of the movie, they say something along the lines like, I wish I could be her for a day.
Right.
But at the end, they say, I want my body back. So the bodies transport that time instead of the mind.
Twisted.
And then the effect both times is
the
really
effect
bad.
was hilarious. But at the time, it wasn't that bad.
So the effect is basically like, it goes to a still image of them, and then it just flashes red and black, red and black, red and black. And then you just kind of see like a ghosted image of them like transition
switching
across
places.
the screen.
Yeah. So then the mom switches back to her body while they're water skiing.
Right. And then somehow ends up on like a hang glider.
So no one's any better off when that happens. Somehow she ends up like koala glomping the back of this dude who's already
koala glomping?
It's a glomp. You know what a glomp
I've
is?
never heard the word glomp.
Anyway, she's like grabbing onto this dude, and he's water skiing, and he is getting ready to go up in the glider. So she like kind of jacks the glider from him, and when she does that, she ends up going up with it.
And everyone's super impressed. Like, they thought like it was a magic show and this whole thing was planned. And the dad's like, I can't believe you guys did this.
And she's just getting progressively more disheveled and terrified through this the poor mom.
Right.
The whole like last 15 minutes of the film, the mom's just screaming.
Yeah, and it makes no sense. Like you mentioned, like the car getting cleaved in half, but there's also a part where a car goes through a tunnel. So the Beetle goes through a tunnel and it goes through unscathed because the Beetle's a little smart, but the cop car goes through the tunnel, and instead of just getting squished and not going through, it's able to get all the way through, and it just gets compresses.
There's also some interesting green screen. Most of the film doesn't have any green screen, and then they have both green screen shots within like 2 minutes of each other.
The skiing and the driving,
yes.
The daughter driving the car. All the driving in the car.
All the driving is really badly green screened, and it's hilarious. But like considering the time, it actually wasn't that bad.
No, I mean honestly, the dialogue was great. It was very.
The switches were hilarious.
The switches were bad. But the dialogue was really good, and I think Jodie Foster did a really good job playing like the only problem that I have with the movie, and it's not even a problem, it's just that we don't get enough of them before the transition to really see what they're really like. So really it's just Jodie Foster just kind of scrunching her face and talking like, I don't believe this kind of thing. But she did a good job, and
yeah.
She spoke like an adult, and it's fine. We didn't really get the mom's personality beforehand to really know if she did a good job. Like, there wasn't like a...
Right.
It's not like River Phoenix playing young Harrison Ford in The Last Crusade, where he didn't play young Indiana Jones. He played young Harrison Ford. He did Harrison Ford's mannerisms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's nothing like that.
Right.
But it's still a great movie. We went through it pretty fast. Is there anything that you wanted to touch on?
There were a lot of like really funny little jokes in there. So throughout the day, the mom is getting more and more overwhelmed.
Right.
Well, the daughter in the mom's body is
right.
getting more and more overwhelmed because she has no idea how to run the household, and she's in over her head because the dad has neglected to hire a caterer for this event.
Oh, that's right.
There was a mix-up. Someone thought someone else was doing it, and there's no caterer. So he volunteers his wife to do the catering. He's like, it's fine, it's just 20 people. I'm sure you can whip something up. You have 3 hours. Which, like, okay, like, back in the day, that was a legitimate thing that could happen. It sucked, but that was, like, an expectation of a housewife, that you could whip up a meal for 20 people in
right.
3 hours,
Figure
maybe.
out.
Yeah, you had, like, your go-to recipes, your tried-and-true stuff. So this dude, like, he's already had this entire day of stuff that she's been failing miserably at, and then he throws that at her. And so she's trying to get all that done. In the process, because she's overwhelmed, everyone's, like, yelling at her, so she ends up firing pretty much the entire household staff.
Right.
She's on the phone with the husband at one point, and they're going down the list of all the people that she fired. He's like, is the dog still there?
There was
Poor
also
dog.
a scene when she goes to visit him at work, and he's got this like really attractive secretary.
Oh, wait. Boris.
No, the neighbor kid.
We forgot about Boris.
That kid was not gorgeous.
No, and he was creepy.
Yeah, so he's like all hitting on the mom and has like a great interaction.
Boris is the neighbor kid that the daughter.
Right?
No. He has bad allergies, so he stays home from school a lot.
Got it.
So the daughter has this big crush on him. Doesn't she call him a babe at the beginning? And
she calls him a babe and a fox. No, she calls him a fox.
And he's like the gawkiest, scrawniest, like weird beanpole with like big fluffy blonde
white
hair.
Fro.
It is so funny. He is a funky looking dude. And then when the daughter is there in the mom's body, she like goes to hang out with Boris, and he gets this big crush on her and is like totally putting the moves on her. It's really inappropriate.
Super inappropriate.
It's so gross. But then she ends up, she's in a bit of a pickle. And so she has this turkey that she's going to make for this dinner. And she's like, I'm just going to double everything, including the temperature. But she has to leave, so she leaves Ben. Is it Ben?
The son, yeah.
There with Boris. And, of course, the turkey gets burnt. She gets back and she's like, Boris, how could you do this to me? It's just really funny.
And then she wants to serve it anyway. She's like, oh, it's just
smoked turkey.
Smoked turkey, yeah. And then there's the scene with like the attractive
Miss
Gibbons, and she's like super upset. Why didn't you tell mom that me?
Let people know who Miss Gibbons is.
Who's Miss Gibbons? The secretary.
Yeah, but you didn't say that. You said the super attractive
secretary.
No, you didn't.
I didn't say that? Oh,
no.
Well, he has this like super attractive redheaded secretary.
Who does?
The dad. Jesus, they know what we're talking about.
Contact. They don't know.
They do know.
We're jumping around.
I'm gonna smack you one.
Uh-huh. Right.
I have my job. You have yours.
Whoa.
So anyway, she's like whoa. Like Marilyn Manson. That's a myth. I know. I don't need anyone telling me it's not real. So anyway, in the mom's body, she goes to visit her dad at work and complain or whatever she's going there for. And there's this super attractive secretary. She's like, why didn't you tell me that you got a new secretary? And it's like, why? I didn't even know. So she's getting upset because the mom's like, man, like she's thinking this girl's like really attractive. And then the dad tells her to like type something out or write a letter or something. So she comes back, she puts her hair up, and then she gets these huge like Coke bottle glasses.
She gets progressively more dowdy.
And she gets like cross-eyed and everything. And then she's like, oh, okay, the dad... Like, it kind of redeems the dad a little bit, where it's like, he honestly probably didn't even notice that she tried. Like, he probably just saw her that one time on a trip.
He's like, well, she has looked better, now that you mention it.
Right. So, that was kind of funny. It's slightly redeeming the creep factor a little bit. But overall, it was a fun movie. Do you have anything else?
No, I loved it. And you know what? It's, even the parts that were bad, in terms of special effects, they're so bad that they're good.
Right.
And everything that's weird about it it's just so 70s that it's enjoyable. And
there's a lot of great, we didn't hit, like, the sports scenes. Like, we barely touched on the field hockey scene. There's a scene where she plays, and the mom it's so hard to talk about. Annabelle plays baseball in her mom's body, and just like incredible. And the brother's like super impressed, and it's just a fun scene. They did some weird stuff with frame rate in that scene to make her look faster and everything. But
it was a good movie. It's worth watching.
Movie. Yeah, it was.
It
really
holds
fun.
up pretty well,
and it's quick. Like the pacing is very, very quick.
Yeah, especially towards the end.
Right.
Holy cow! And you're kind of overwhelmed at the end, but it's worth the watch.
All right, so you ready to talk about the newer one?
I mean,
the
I'm
newish
here,
one.
aren't I?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. All right, so this one is written by Scott. Annabelle and her mother Tess are constant quibblers. Tess's fiance is an unacceptable replacement for Anna's dad and Anna's music, friends, grades, and taste in boys ad nauseum in parentheses. Then dawns that fateful Freaky Friday when Anna and Tess switch bodies and must learn to live in each other's place. It's only then that selfless love will change them back. A fresh and delightful, if somewhat cheesy, family comedy. I agree, it's pretty cheesy. I don't agree with that in that they're trying to make Ryan, Tessa's fiance, a replacement for the dad, the music, the friends, everything. Like, they don't really mention the dad too much until like the middle of the movie or just before the switch. It's like 2 or 3 times they mention it, and I feel like the soon-to-be stepfather was a pretty good guy. Like, he wasn't overstepping any bounds. So I don't know if I agree with that portion of this summary, but overall, yeah, it is a somewhat cheesy, delightful family comedy.
I hate that guy's hairstyle, but other than that, he was a good guy.
He's fine. Mark Harmon, he's always looked like he's fine. It's just an average 40-something-year-old man's haircut.
It's awful.
I know this movie is a bigger deal to you than the original one was. I only saw it the one time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, because I'm pretty close in age with Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah, she's only 2 years older than us.
Yeah, so every movie that she did at that time, me and all of my friends watched like a million times. They were like the slumber party go-to
right,
films.
And she had a great run with Disney, so of course she had the Parent Trap.
She was a good child actor. Like, she was solid.
She was good.
And she
it's
just pissed away her career.
And it's weird how she got worse at acting.
Yeah,
she did the Parent Trap, and that movie's fine. Like, it's good, from what I remember.
She did a great job in that movie. That was
not
an easy role.
She plays 2 parts, and she has an accent as one of the twins.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie since...
Like, in terms of child actors, that's solid work.
It
really is.
I haven't seen that movie in probably 15, 20 years. But, she did that, and then she did, like, a Disney Channel movie, and then she did this movie, and then it was Herbie Fully Loaded, Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. I think we were talking about her last night, and you had a really good observation where it's like, she had a great transition point with Mean Girls, where she goes from, like...
Dude, Tina Fey set her up for, like, a great
transition.
career.
Right, because she goes from... That movie is still...
She shot that horse in the
face.
face.
Like a teenage kind of comedy movie, but it's a little bit more mature, and there's a little bit of... Even though Tina Fey's, pretty feminist and everything like that, there is some still kind of, like, pointing out how hot Lindsay Lohan used to be kind of thing. Like, it was a good transition movie, and then she just fucking blew it.
Well, it's a little more complicated than that.
I mean,
her
for family
parents'
stuff.
situation is not great, but yeah. I think she got to a certain point where people gave her a lot of chances, and she still blew it.
Well, now she's basically just not hireable. Like, insurance companies won't cover her. Like, and the problem is she's just, because of all the plastic surgery and the drug use, like, she looks 50 now.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because she
was beautiful.
She was gorgeous. Gorgeous. Like, and the thing is, like, she was almost too hot for Disney because Disney spent millions of dollars making CGIing her boobs smaller.
Which is really unfair.
Right.
Okay? Like, as a large-breasted woman... It's really unfair what people will say and do and think about you just because you have big boobs and you're young.
Exactly. And, she was great. I don't know any guy my age in the mid-2000s, like the 2003 to about 2010, who wasn't, like, in love with Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it is sad that she's basically never going to come back. I don't see her having a Robert Downey Jr. kind of turnaround.
Unless she stops injecting stuff into her face. No.
I mean, but she's just, like, is a terrible actress now. Like, she just lost it. I don't know what it is. Like, even when Robert Downey Jr. was at his low, when he got fired from Ally McBeal, he was still great in that show. So,
yeah, he was.
Let's just get into the movie. We kind of went on a tangent. This movie's fun. It's bad. I'd say this is a bad movie, but it's corny and fun. Like, there's some really stupid jokes, and the music is obviously they were really trying to push like a soundtrack with this movie. Yeah, but it's a fun movie. What are some highlights for you?
I didn't have a lot of notes for this one because I just got so into watching it because it's such an enjoyable film.
I could tell you really enjoy it.
I love Jame Lee Curtis.
Jame Lee Curtis is great.
She's great in everything, and I love that she was willing to embrace the silliness of this role. Because before this, I'm not really sure that we saw that from her.
She did a lot of comedies in the 70s and 80s. Did she? Yeah, she did a lot of stuff like Dan Aykroyd, The Fish Called Wanda. She did Trading Places.
Right, but then she kind of went to the more serious stuff.
Yeah, she did.
And she became...
True Lies, she was kind of like over the top.
That was pretty early, though.
That was... Yeah, I mean, that was like towards the middle of her
she
career.
kind of fell into these mom roles and these serious businesswoman roles. And, there's something that happens with your career when you are...
doing Activia commercials.
This was...
this was probably right around when she started.
No, this was way before Activia.
Oh, okay.
I think she, went gray before she did Activia.
Yeah.
But she was... I don't know if she was A-list, but you kind of get, so big that people are afraid to stray from what you've been doing.
Well, I think she did a pretty good job with that because she was the scream queen, like, for a long time.
Which
and,
can be hard to get out of.
She also had to live under her mother's shadow for a while, and I think she's made a career.
Who's her mother?
Her mother is, what's her name? Give me a second, I'll have to look it up. Her mother's super famous, was another really famous actress, and I
had no idea.
Janet Lee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Tony Curtis. So yeah, she, two very famous parents. So
yeah.
But no, she was great in this movie. She played the serious part, and I think this movie did a little bit better in the. I still don't think they did a good job. Like, I think Jame Lee Curtis did a little bit better in taking Lindsay Lohan's mannerisms than Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan, I think, did the same thing that Jodie Foster did. Just kind of scrunched her face and just kind of sounded a little bit more angry. Where Jame Lee Curtis did the shrieking of like a teenage girl and jumped up and down and was very...
It was more fun for her, though. I think there was more material to work with.
I agree. Yeah, it's definitely easier to be the older person playing the younger person if you have the energy to do it.
Right.
And I think she did a great job. I think she was really fun to watch. I enjoyed the parts with Jame Lee Curtis more than I enjoyed the stuff with Lindsay Lohan.
Right. I did enjoy that they had a lot of nods to the original movie. That was kind of fun.
They did.
The daughter is named Anna.
Right.
Instead of Annabelle. There's something... So in this film, the dad is dead.
Right.
The dad is dead. The big thing that's happening is not anything to do with anyone's career, really. The mom is getting married.
Yeah.
And I really wonder if... when the writers were, like, working on this film, if they just decided to kill the dad because he was so freaking creepy in the first film.
Maybe. I mean, that's funny. That's definitely a possibility.
That was my thought.
I think it's probably just because...
Never called me daddy before.
In 2000s, late 90s and early 2000s movies, it always had to be a single parent. And there was a lot of step-parent stuff in that time frame.
Yeah, well, because, I mean, how many friends did you have whose parents weren't divorced?
Honestly, I only had, like, one. That I really know, like my
right.
friend Ryan.
Almost all of my friends' parents were divorced.
I only had like one or two, but
it just made... Oh, most of your friends' parents were together still?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. I think most of my friends' parents were divorced.
I had a few friends whose one of their parents died.
Oh,
that was
weird.
more common for me than the divorce thing.
I only had a couple of those.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess we can't really use that point. No, well, it's an easy...
It's an easy way to make conflict between a mom and a child.
Yes.
And honestly, I think they did a good enough job with that. Like, there was a point where, like, they brought it up fairly early in the movie, and Anna was like, no, that's not what it is. Like, right. It's that you don't pay attention to me anymore. Yeah. And then... towards the end of the middle of the movie, she brings it up again. She's like, that's not what it is. And then at the end of the movie, she's like totally cool with it, of course, with like, she kind of bonds with the stepfather without the stepfather even knowing, because obviously they've switched bodies. This movie had a lot more build up before they actually switched. Like, this one had almost probably 25 minutes or so before they actually switched.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff. Like, so you saw
I liked that.
You saw each of them have a day, so you saw the mom have a day at work, Lindsay Lohan had a day at school. You also got a little bit more of the relationship with the brother, and the brother's like a dickhead in this one. Like, the brother's an asshole in this movie.
He was. And I think it upped the stakes a lot more by showing what their lives entailed.
I think they did a better job on this one.
Not so much with the daughter. I think she had lower stakes. But the mom is a therapist.
Right.
And she has... some genuinely unhinged people that she has to deal with. Plus, she's planning her wedding.
Right.
Like, this all goes down, like, 2 days before they're supposed to get married.
And they have family in town.
They have family coming in town. They've got a big old rehearsal dinner. The whole shebang is going on.
And the other thing that's interesting is, obviously this is Anna, the daughter's big thing, but she's in a band, and she has this big potential audition to play at this, like, festival.
At the House of Blues. They have an audition.
And, honestly, it was a bigger deal for the mom, because the mom had to, like, hear it from the, not just the daughter, but the friends, and then also the stepfather, like, the future stepfather, her future husband, telling her that she should let them do this. So it was kind of like, a little bit different. Like, she was getting things from all sides, telling her she actually should let the daughter do these things. So I actually kind of liked that aspect where it was like, it wasn't just because she was in somebody else's body that she learned this lesson. Like, people were telling her she should have done that. So there was a little bit. The difference in this one is they were going to stay permanently in that position until they learn to love each other selflessly.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked that they both were being told from other people, like, hey, you need to understand this portion before and after, and they kind of learned these lessons despite the body switch. Like, they would have probably come to these terms eventually.
Right.
So I did kind of like that aspect. It is weird that there was, like, Asian magic in this one. It was like Portuguese. They called it Asian voodoo.
Yeah, they called it Asian. Like, the whole Chinese restaurant thing was a little bit problematic. Not gonna lie. But you know, what year was this?
2003.
2003. It's interesting how slow on the uptake we've been to, like, recognize when we do problematic things talking about Asians in American film. It's
right.
bad.
They
it's
were
real
very,
bad.
very caricature characters.
Well, and it was always so easy for them to throw in, like, this Asian mystic.
Right.
Because they're so exotic and mysterious.
Yeah. And
you know,
it's...
it was a really creepy fallback.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing that was a little weird about it is they kind of acknowledge it too. So, like, they go back to the restaurant and they're asking what's going on. And then the daughter of the woman who actually did the magic,
she cursed them.
Yeah. She's kind of like, oh, let me talk to my mom. And then she's like, starts talking to the mom in, like, Chinese. And she goes, no, we don't know what you're talking about.
She's crazy.
She's crazy and everything. And they're just talking. It's like, she goes, why would you do this? She's about to get married. She goes, nobody told me that she was about to get married. And so the mom's kind of like, yeah, I acknowledge this was probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things with the brother that I kind of liked. Like, I think this one, they each had fun in the other person's body a little bit more. They took advantage of being in the other person's body to do things that they wanted the other person to do. So
the daughter took the mom's body and went on a shopping spree.
And also tormented the brother.
I thought that was pretty gutsy, and I love that she just, like, went and did it. Like, she gave her mom a full-on makeover.
Yeah.
Like, new wardrobe. She cut her hair right before her wedding. She got some piercings. She did her makeup. Like, she looked great.
She did.
She looked pretty hot.
I actually liked her hair better before the haircut, but I did like the outfits. And
I like Jame Lee Curtis with gray hair best.
Really?
I think she looks best.
Interesting. Okay.
It suits her skin tone
I don't think
the most.
I don't think she looks bad with the gray hair. I think she's aged very
well.
well.
I think she looked better at the beginning of her Activia spokesmanship than she did in True Lies.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
a hot broad.
Honestly, she would have been a really good Aunt May. In the Andrew Garfield version.
I don't think she's soft enough.
It depends on the version of Aunt May. Like, if they went more ultimate, I think she would. You don't know what that really
Maybe.
is, but I think she would have been good.
She's still great in this movie, though, and it was so sad though, because at the beginning, when they switch, they look in the mirror and the daughter's in the mom's body, and she's like, "I'm old. I'm like the crypt keeper."
Well, and then she's like screams. I like the part where when Jame Lee Curtis wakes up in Lindsay Lohan's body, and she's like, feels her boobs, and she goes down. She feels her butt. That's definitely
her
not
ass.
mine. Well, then I also like where
that was a good booty.
They had to realize she was 17. You can't say that.
Okay, when she was like 20, she was still like really hot.
No, she was super hot. Like in Mean Girls, she was
had
smoking
gorgeous
hot.
Curves. Like she was
super hot.
She was hot.
Yeah.
And she like starved herself and everything. Kind of.
Yeah, it's not so good anymore.
No.
It was really funny. So when they were like, "Well, we need to go." There's no way around this. We're going to have to go live a day in each other's lives. So they go and get dressed. And so she makes Lindsay Lohan's character, she makes the daughter dress way too conservative. And then Anna as Tess dresses way too like she says something like she calls it.
She goes a little punk.
She goes a little punk, just a white tank top and tight. There's a scene where they're like, we need to go change. She's like, I'll go drab down, or I'll go drab up, and I'll go grunge down.
Yeah.
And so she goes to pull up her pants, and the brother goes like, ugh. There's another thing that was kind of messed up, because the brother, throughout the first 20 minutes of the movie, would like do things like flick the sister, And then she would go to react, but he would do it specifically when the mom was distracted. So Lindsay Lohan kept getting in trouble, even though the brother was the one starting everything.
Right.
The brother was reading the diary, and that's what caused her to go blow up and then like lose the door and everything like that. I forgot where I was going with this.
I don't know.
Oh, anyway, I mean, I this wasn't where I was originally going, but I'm going to go this way now. So what was interesting was like they took advantage of being in each other's bodies. So there's a point when they are taking Lindsay Lohan to school and they drop her off, and then the fiance was like, "Hey, do you want me to take? Are we heading to the brother's school now?" And she goes, "No, he can walk." And he's like, "It's like 20 blocks. And
Run fast.
So you need the fresh air. What about bullies? Then it's
run fast."
Yeah,
I loved it.
Stuff like that. And then like you already mentioned the makeover. They kind of did the same thing. You know, she dressed her really conservatively, got her nails done, got her hair done, you know, put up in a ponytail.
I mean, she had
like
a nice spa day, no matter what. Like, my body's feeling better than it did before.
Right. And then the whole McDonald's scene, I think they played up the age thing a lot more in this one. So, like, Lindsay, as, you know, her mom, she's eating McDonald's, and then the mom, as the daughter, was like, "You can't do that. That's going to go in your mouth, into my thighs." So then she starts eating. She's like, "I haven't had a French fry in 8 years," kind of thing. I think this movie had a little bit more fun with it, and they definitely kind of tormented each other
and they spent more time together trying to sort stuff out.
They did. Like, they went to the back to the Chinese restaurant.
Right.
They, you know, there was a point where they interacted with each other at school, and they kind of like filled each other in on what their day is going to be like.
Yeah.
They had a little bit more time to prep before things started going, but, you know, she's like, "Hey, I've got this test. The teacher's a dick." You know,
this film had its own Boris.
Yeah, the Boris was the same guy.
And it was even creepier. So the guy who played Boris in the original film was in this film.
Yep, as Boris.
His name was Boris, but he was a delivery guy?
He was the delivery guy,
Delivery guy. So this film had its own creepy cougar dynamic. There was a boy at school.
Chad Michael Murray.
What was that character's name?
Jake.
Of course it was Jake. They're all Jake. And he had like this kind of bad boy image.
But it turns out he wasn't really bad.
Right. Rode a motorcycle, but he was like somehow like a TA or something.
I don't know if he was a student or a teaching assistant.
I'm not really sure exactly what he was doing. Like, he worked at the school.
But he also worked at like Starbucks.
Yeah, it was confusing. Yeah. So I think he was some kind of a TA.
Well, they kept saying he was too old for her, so maybe he was like a year outside of high school.
I thought he was like a senior and she was like a sophomore or something.
That's what I thought, but I think he might have been... Maybe he's like his first year of college and he's doing like a TA thing.
So then he had like no business with her at all.
Right.
But at the beginning of the film, Jake and Anna are like already super into each other.
Yeah. Well, they had never met before.
No.
But
they see each other in the halls and they talk to each other. And, like, the first time they speak, they're, like, super into each other.
Talking about music and stuff.
Talking about music, trying to make plans to go out, which is, like, not how that kind of thing goes down in high school, usually. No. Like, usually you talk to someone a few times, get to know them. It's not, like, all in, let's go out kind of situation. But that's how they took it. But at the begining of the movie, he offers her a ride on his bike, and she's gonna go, but then she's in trouble with the teacher, and she has to stay. Oh. And he just, like, she turns around to talk to the teacher, and then she turns back to look at him, and he's, like, taking off on his motorcycle.
He said he had to go to his other job.
Yeah, he just leaves without saying goodbye.
He's a good guy. He can't be late to work.
Anyway, so... that goes similar to the way that it went in the first movie.
I think this took it much further.
But it's even creepier.
Yeah, so he ends up...
Because he ends up, like, falling for the mom and, like...
following her.
Getting real weird.
And talking about how much better she is than the daughter, even though he doesn't realize he's actually talking to the daughter.
And he's like, he shows up at random places that she's gonna be. He's like, I don't know what this is, but I need to find out.
He shows up at the house and starts singing, and then he shows up at the wedding rehearsal.
He pulls a... What is that movie?
Say Anything.
He pulls a Say Anything.
He's singing Britney Spears.
I forgot
it's because
about that.
I mean, because they listen to a cover.
They're in a coffee shop and they hear that cover of
Baby One More Time.
Yeah. What band was? I had that song.
I don't know. There was an album that was called Punk Does Pop or something like that.
I think that song was on the soundtrack for this film as well, and I think I had the soundtrack. So yeah, it took it real far.
It did. So
to the point where it's like you should be not wanting to date this dude anymore if he's, like, willing to try and break up your mother's marriage, like, right before she's about to get married.
Yeah.
It takes it real far.
And then basically at the end, the one part that I thought was so bad that I honestly, it wasn't believable was, so Lindsay Lohan plays guitar in this, and she's supposed to be like the best guitarist ever, and she's got this really great solo in the song. And so she goes, everybody convinces the mom, aka the daughter, to let her go and do the
skip out on the rehearsal dinner.
Because apparently it's right across the street.
Right.
So
that's reasonable.
I think it's reasonable.
Go
right?
for half an hour.
Right. So she goes, and obviously the mom doesn't know how to play the guitar, and we didn't talk about this in the original movie, but there is a form of muscle memory. Like, you might not know, she wouldn't know because her mind's there, she wouldn't know the note, like the actual progression of the thing. But
but that's still physically the daughter's brain. Like, when you hear, there's something that happens with music.
Exactly.
Like, you feel it in your gut.
And in the first movie with the field hockey, she might not necessarily know all the rules, but her body would still know what to do.
Right.
Because that's built into
She just wouldn't know.
She wouldn't know the actual rules, and
right. She scores a goal for the other team.
She might foul, and this one she would. I feel like she'd at least be able to strum like some chords. Like she would know how to hold it. But anyway, like they go through like 3/4 of the song with her just standing there looking super awkward and everyone looking at her. But everybody in the audience is still fucking pumped.
Right.
And then, Jame Lee Curtis's body, she's playing off stage and she's just like, just pretend to play. She's not moving her hands around. She's literally just bopping around and everything. It's like, it's not.
Anyone in the audience
would know she wasn't.
Who was at House of Blues would realize that she is not actually hitting those chords.
Right. And the thing is, it would be one thing if she started that way, but then as she started going, almost like that scene in True Lies when she's stripping. Like, initially it's all awkward and clunky and weird, but then she gets into it, and then it gets kind of sexy, and she's, it's very sensual. And it would be interesting if, she started and it was just kind of like, obviously a kid with a toy guitar doesn't know how to hold it and everything. Or slapping the bass with it way too high, like in I Love You Man, like when he's doing air guitar. It was awkward, but as she starts feeling it and getting into it, it starts looking more real. Like, I would have appreciated that, because it didn't look like she was playing the guitar at all.
No, it didn't.
And then in that moment, they agree to love each other, and they go back, and the mom was like, hey, you need to have them call off the wedding until we sort this stuff out. And like, if he loves me as much as I think he does, like, he'll be okay with it. And so instead of doing that, in her mom's body, the daughter ends up saying like how great this man is and how much she's happy, that he's not replacing the father, but is like a great dude and like makes the mom happy. And then they switch and everything's great.
Yeah.
And then there's like a joke that like the grandfather and the brother are gonna switch because the same woman goes to give them a fortune cookie and they get tackled.
Yeah, there are several tackles in this movie.
There are quite a few.
I think there are like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I love at the beginning when they realize that they've switched bodies. They are in the daughter's bedroom and they decide the best way to try and switch back would be a jolt. So they run full speed ahead into each other. Like, why?
I don't know.
Why would you think that's the answer?
I have no idea. It was a fun movie.
It was fun.
So do you think this, obviously this isn't the only remake, but do you think this was a necessary remake?
I think it was worth making.
I think it's different enough. The thing that's great about a movie like this is it's easy enough to do a remake because every 10-15 years, society's so different than it was before.
Totally.
So, like, the other one is a perfect 70s movie, like that 70s mom, 70s like 70s housewife kind of mentality. This is different, where it's like, women are expected to still run a household, have a career, single mom, and then also just like teenagers are completely different in 2000s versus the 70s.
And it's a single mom with a career.
Right.
And the daughter is pretty independent, and she's trying to do her own thing. She's got some pretty big goals.
You know what I hated about this movie? And it was
the brother.
I mean, the brother. You hate him because he's a dick, but he's very entertaining.
He is entertaining.
I hated the first 20 minutes of this movie because the first 20, right until they actually switched body, every fucking line Lindsay Lohan shrieked. She sounded like indiscernible from Frankie Muniz in Malcolm in the Middle. indiscernible.
You used to love Frankie Muniz until we watched Malcolm in the
Oh,
Middle
I
together.
still love... He's awful.
And I
But the show's
expressed
fantastic.
how much I hated him.
The show is
he
fantastic.
is the weak link in that show. Yeah, I totally get that. But you know what? It's so teenage girl. And it was probably more the director than anything else.
Probably. I mean, it's a fun movie. I can see why they made it. Honestly, I think as a movie, I don't think this movie is as good as the original. To me. But
it's right in line with all of the other Disney movies for theater that came out at the same time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The Confessions of Teenage Drama Queen, Princess Diaries, all that stuff. They're very similar quality.
Yeah.
I guess it's a product of its time.
It is. It's still
I enjoyed
watchable.
both movies.
It's very watchable.
It was fun.
It's entertaining. It's warm fuzzy for me, personally. So I think that's why I like it so much.
For me, it took me a good 20 minutes to get really into it.
Yeah.
It was fun. I laughed throughout the movie. It was stupid. It was a stupid movie, but it was fun.
But you didn't have many a slumber party, painting your nails with your friends and binge eating junk food while watching.
Hey, you don't know my life. But yeah, no, I think it was worth making, and I obviously they just made another version that went straight to TV.
I won't be watching it.
I'm sure in another 10-15 years they'll be doing it again.
Yeah, probably.
So a couple facts about this movie. Kelly Osbourne was supposed to be Anna originally, and she turned it down. No. Michelle Trachtenberg was actually cast, but had to back out because of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I love Michelle Trachtenberg.
She's gorgeous.
She's like, if I could look like anyone else, I would look like her. With better teeth.
With better teeth. She was also supposed to be...
Her with my teeth.
Didn't I think at one point she was also supposed to be Bella in Twilight.
She would have been so much better. God.
Originally they were trying to get Jodie Foster to be in the movie as the mom, but
she's so picky.
She's picky,
and she lives a normal life, like out on the East Coast.
Yeah. Well, she was like, "Oh, it'll overshadow the movie." I'm sorry, nobody who was a teenager in 2000.
She does really like herself.
She's very full of herself. But no teenage girl in 2003 knows who the fuck Jodie Foster was.
No.
A couple years later, they did Flight Plan.
I mean, Panic Room is really good.
Oh, Panic Room. Yeah, she did that one too.
Back when Kristen Stewart was a little boy. Anyway, well, we should watch that. I love that movie.
Kristen Stewart looks like I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but in Point Break, the one who tells Keanu, he's like, surfing, it'll change your life, bro.
Anyway.
That's it. I don't have anything else to you.
I just have to note, when the stepdad is asking the mom if she's going to pick up the Volvo, she's like, yeah, I can pick up the Volvo.
Oh, that's right, the Volvo. There's also another joke that I remembered when I got lost in my thought earlier, and then I went with a different direction. The brother at one point is like excited that the mom might be dead.
He kind of sounds excited, but I don't think he was supposed to be. I don't think he was supposed to be. I think he just didn't really know how to control his voice.
But he goes, "Come here, She's dead." But he sounds excited, and he goes, "Look, you see," and he kind of like pokes her and everything, and then she's like, "She's dead." Like he was smiling. So,
oh my god.
Fucking sociopath.
Yeah.
Anyway, Katrina, thank you for coming on and guest hosting this episode.
Michael, thank you for asking me to guest host this episode.
And, you guys, thank you for listening. You guys can check out everything that's MDXpods related at MDXpods.com, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all at MDXpods. We are also on YouTube, link in the description below. And to the side, depending on your podcast listening experience. And check out our other podcast, Ruin My Childhood, that's hosted every other week by me and Katrina. So if you liked this and you want some more nostalgia stuff, Ruin My Childhood. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.